You gonna talk?
Hi everyone, welcome to Screams After Midnight. We talk about horror movies, and I'm Peter, and that's Tim.
Uh, you know what? That was the best intro you've ever done.
I thought you'd think that, Tim. I thought I was going to roll right into it. I'm going to make you doubt it. I'm going to make you wait for it. It's like,
Yeah,
is he going to speak? And I spoke.
it's yeah. It was everything you said happened.
It did, yes, it
Yeah.
did. Yeah, we talk about horror movies every week, and this week we're going to talk about Intruders, which is a film that came out this year publicly. It was in festivals last year, so it'll be listed as 2015 on IMDb, but it really is a 2016 movie. Uh, it's also
Not
got
to be confused with The Intruders.
yeah, and other films called Intruders as well that are all over the place because this was actually a really hard film to make sure we had to make sure we were both watching the same movie because there was so many
But
movies with the same title. Um,
which I like. Is this just gonna be something that happens like each year? Like last year we had Final Girls and
the
was it
Final
the
Girl.
Final Girl and Final Girls? Was
It
that
was
it?
Final Girl and the Final Girls. Yeah,
Okay, so yeah, like, pretty much like the same thing. It's just
yeah.
like
So this has an alternate title, though. This was also originally known as Shut In, I think. I don't know if it's still
yeah,
known as that in some places, but at least
I
in
kind of
I
like that.
yeah, I think that's a better title as well, actually, given
Yeah.
what the plot's about. But whatever. So called Intruders. It's directed by Adam Schindler, who may or may not make lists, but that's neither here nor there.
We cannot confirm at this point.
No. And it's a movie, and as always, we'll start spoiler free and give you a warning before we go into spoilers. We have the spoiler crypt, as it were, which we will go into halfway through. The movie is about a woman who suffers from agoraphobia. And if you don't know what agoraphobia is, it is the fear of the outside. It's someone who just stays inside their house. I like to break out an old joke that I heard once that Halloween is the perfect time for the agoraphobic paedophile
Oh,
because they
yeah,
come to you. Yeah.
makes sense.
You know, but that's what so it's about an agoraphobic woman who there's a home invasion. Three guys break into her house, and well, shenanigans ensue. I guess.
Let's say again, we're not giving out spoilers, but there's a certain turning point in the movie where things, at least I, you know, didn't expect to see
Yeah,
what happened.
there's every synopsis I've seen in the movie it does put on a little thing at the end, but it says, "But the intruders get a little bit more than they bargained for." Like
Yeah.
there's a little thing that says there's more to it than just home invasion, and that kind of had to be because one of the things that I really noticed with this, because we've had a lot of home invasion movies over the years, so we've all, we've seen various different versions of it,
Mhm.
and what really struck me about the home invaders in this is
Mhm.
just how they didn't treat them with any mystery or mystique. It's just immediately here's their faces, here's them talking to each other, here's them. They just felt like, all right, okay, I'm not scared of these
Yeah.
people at all, like because they're not like that.
Mhm.
So there has to be more to this. This isn't your end game because you're not
Yeah.
selling it to me like it's your end game. And fair enough, it wasn't. So
Yeah.
I
And
guess I can't complain about that.
what I kind of liked is the there was like mystery about it, but it wasn't very um like you really don't, or at least to me, like you didn't really find out exactly what's going on until pretty late on. Like you always knew something was up, but then it really kept you guessing, like, oh, what's going on now? And like, oh, like now they're kind of in this new area, and like you see something a little weird, and you're like, okay, like that seems out of place, and then oh, this new person gets introduced, and they're acting weird, and I thought it was like a good, you know, kind of sense of mystery and kind of exploring like what was happening throughout.
In places, I agree.
Hmm.
I don't agree completely. Um, well, for me, actually, I'll just sort of like for me, this
It
movie was very much a mixed bag
okay.
because this movie had some good ideas, had some really
Hmm.
good ideas. There was moments in this movie where things started to slide into place,
Hmm.
almost literally, and that was when I was like, "Oh, what's going on now? Oh shit,
Yeah.
this is taking a turn for the more interesting things here."
Hmm.
And it introduced stuff, but I thought that the ultimate answers as to what was going on was actually a bit of a letdown for me.
Hmm.
and I thought the ending was weak and a bit of a misfire and didn't really add up from what had
Oh,
came before it.
interesting. I didn't feel like I didn't really have the same uh
Ob-
feelings.
Obviously, I can't really talk about that part until we get to spoilers, but for
Right.
me, by the time I got to the end, I wasn't like I was struggling to really root for anyone.
Hmm.
You know, I
Yeah,
wasn't. I
I
wasn't.
can definitely see that.
You know, it was
Yeah.
kind of weird. Like I didn't really have a horse in the race anymore. It was really strange in that sense.
Hmm.
But it does handle. There's specific scenes and specific ideas throughout the film that I think are really interesting and
Yeah.
really done well. There's a couple of things where they play on this whole agoraphobia thing, where
Hmm.
she can't leave the house even when she's in danger inside the house,
Yeah.
and I really liked that. I thought that was interesting,
That was really good. Yeah.
but at the same time, I don't think everything added up. Like it didn't gel together for me.
I think like the very, very, very end, I had some problems with, but kind of like you were saying, like the explanation for kind of things, I actually thought was interesting, and I kind of liked. Um, but yeah, I mean, I can definitely see having some problems with it. Overall, though, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought it was pretty interesting.
Alright, okay, you liked it more than I did
Yeah.
then. That's fair.
Yeah, I'm not saying like, oh my God, it was the most amazing movie I've seen all year, but especially for something that I really hadn't heard about or known anything previously, I was like, oh, this is kind of like a pleasant little surprise.
I think yeah, because it's worth mentioning that we picked this to watch at like total random. Like we just
Yeah.
seen it existed. We went, let's try this. Let's not even read a synopsis.
Hmm.
Let's just try this. That's how we picked this one, and we hadn't heard anything about it. And admittedly, it could have been a complete train wreck, and it wasn't. Like it wasn't in that
Yeah.
kind of category at all. For me, where this movie really falls down is the characters and them not really being that compelling. Like I think the intruder characters, I
Hmm.
think they're very stereotypical. Even
Yeah.
like because there's three of them, and even the way you break them down, there's the leader, there's the hothead who seems to want to be more than violent than they should be, and then there's the one
Yeah.
who's kind of the opposite of that, who kind of just wants to run away and forget everything as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
This is very archetypical in that sense.
Yeah.
And the lead character, who's agoraphobic, this is a, I don't think she ever actually succeeds in
Hmm.
being interesting. If that like, she's interesting because of the agoraphobia,
Yeah.
but I never really connected with her as a character beyond that.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a valid argument. Yeah, I'll agree there isn't much to really go on with the characters. I think for me it was more of like the, you know, kind of like why are they bringing this into this house? Like what are they looking for? And then once the kind of, you know, how do you say it without spoiling? Once the kind of weird thing happens like halfway through or whatever, once the tables kind of get flipped or whatever, and you kind of start finding out more and more what is really going on and what it's really about. That was kind of more what, interested me. But I definitely see what you're saying though. Like, yeah, there wasn't really much you can kind of relate to or attach to the characters. They were kind of one dimensional.
Yeah, it,
Uh,
it, it was hard to get a grasp on one of them and root for one of them.
yeah,
Um, even the main girl who, like, I should be kind of rooting for, and they kind of just failed to make her interesting enough for me to do that. And
yeah,
then when things developed and things got murkier in that sense, it became really weird for me to actually really attach myself to any of the characters.
yeah,
I didn't know, what side of the fence I was on. It was really weird, and
yeah,
that can be done effectively if that's the point. But I don't feel like here it was the point, or at least if it was, they didn't do it in such a way where I was like, oh, this is really captivating because I
mhm,
can't, like if you watch Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance and it shows you like
mhm,
two sides of the same like thing,
mhm.
and by the end of it you're like, oh shit, I don't know who to pick, but it's done so well because you really care about both characters
Yeah,
and you understand why they're both doing what they're doing, but you don't understand, but but it's like there's that confrontation in your mind is intentional and it's there because
mhm,
it's the intention of the filmmaker. Whereas with here, it was just kind of murky. I was just kind of like, So by the
yeah,
time it ended, and it felt like it was going for this big swelling ending, like I had cared about the characters,
mhm.
it didn't really feel like it was earned, and I just kind of when it cut to the credits at the end, I was just kind of like, okay,
Yeah.
I'm done. Okay.
Yeah, I can definitely see that complaint. I don't know. When I like watched it, I think I started watching it on maybe like Friday night. It's either Friday or Saturday night, and I was like really tired that day. I think I started watching like at 11, but I was like, you know, really tired and ready to go to sleep. But I got really interested in it and like, watched it all the way through because like I wanted to see, what was going to happen. And um, yeah, it's not perfect. There are definitely complaints. I think you bring up pretty valid flaws that are in it, but at least for me, I got a good amount of entertainment and enjoyment out of watching it, and it kept me interested the whole way through. I never really felt bored or antsy at all during it.
No, I'll give it that. It was never boring. That it's paced well enough.
Yeah.
I just don't think it's, I guess, suspenseful enough. Like I'm
Mhm.
not because I'm not invested. I'm not as into it. Everything things were just kind of happening, and I was like, okay, okay, now it's happening. But
Yeah.
it was never really getting that attachment or that pull on me.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, I see that with the characters. I guess for me, it's just like when things did happen, I was like, okay, like when something would happen, I'd be like, okay, well, what's gonna come of that? And then like the next thing happened, it's like, okay, well, so like what's gonna come of that? And then that's kind of that kind of kept me invested. But I don't know. Like overall, would you say that you like you didn't hate it, but like you didn't really overly love it? Is that kind of what you're saying? Like it was just kind of like average in the middle for you?
yeah, it's average with some good ideas.
Okay, yeah, it's not bad. Yeah,
That's where I land on it. So shall we go into the spoilers? Because
yeah.
I feel like
Let's
there's
do
not
that.
much more we can say about this one without getting into spoilers. So full
Yeah,
spoilers
it's kind
for
of
this
hard
point
to
on. Spoiler crypt time.
unlock
So
in the crypt.
yeah, so the moment where this movie completely flips its shit is when she flips a switch, and the intruder characters are down in the basement, and she's
Mhm.
already kind of like struggled away from one of them and killed him by like stabbing him in the neck. The other
Yeah.
two are down in the basement. She flips this switch, and the stairs to the basement retract into the wall, and it's like,
Mhm.
hello, what's
Yeah.
happening now? Oh,
Yeah, like before I was kind of like mildly invested in the movie, because and then it's kind of going through the motions. Like it's a little interesting with the whole agoraphobia angle, but then it's at that point kind of just like a typical home
yeah,
invasion movie.
that was the only time before then that I was where my interest kind of picked up a bit was when she actually makes a run for the door
Right.
and she can get away, but she freezes and can't move. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh right, this is interesting. Okay, like
Yeah.
this is different. But at that time, I was like, how are they going to make this last for the next like 70 minutes or whatever was left of the movie? Because it was
Yeah.
like what was going to happen to change? And obviously, this is where things really changed. Is
Yeah.
so they're trapped down there, and we find out that she's got a remote that controls the doors that are down there. There's like different trap doors. There's this weird bedroom,
Yeah.
like prison and stuff.
Yeah.
And earlier on in the film, you heard that the brother said to her, "Forgive Dad." So I'm thinking, did he keep her down here captive? Was this all like the dad's stuff? And now she's using it to trap them. And I kind of wish it was that almost because I'd still be rooting for her a lot more. Whereas when you actually learn what was going on, she comes off as just being another nut job,
Mhm.
and that's where it really muddied the characters for me because I didn't really root for anyone once all this came to light. I
Yeah.
was like, well, she's just a nut job. I mean, don't get me wrong, they broke into her house and they were trying to steal her money, possibly going to kill
Mhm.
her. They implied that the guy wasn't actually going to kill her; he was just kind of playing along.
Yeah.
And I'm like, so am I rooting for him? But then, like, he turns back and tries to kill her and burn the house down because now he's pissed. And
Yeah.
like, who am I rooting for? Who's my horse in this race?
Mhm.
I don't really care about either of these characters now. They're both.
I think
Um,
the most maybe would be like the Rory Culkin's character, the delivery guy.
well, yeah, sure, but like, he's not even like really involved in the final confrontation.
Right, yeah. But I don't know. I guess if there's anyone that's a good guy, maybe he
Yeah,
would be the closest or something.
he is the closest, but absolutely. But like, that's just kind of my problem where I'm not invested in the character. I don't know who to root for. So at the end of the movie, he when she kills him, right, one bullet in the gun, she kills him, and she gets out of the house. She gets to the front door, or she sits in the living room and she looks at the front door, and you realise the music starts to swell up. This is the
Yeah.
moment where she's going to walk out, and I don't get why. Like, and what I mean by that is I don't get why she now can do this, because she says to the
Yeah.
after she kills the main dude, right? She says, "I forgive you," which is like harkening back to when the brother at the start said, "Forgive Dad for what he did,"
Yeah.
because he was a paedophile. He raped his daughter, and that's what led to them
So
going after hunting paedophiles and locking them in this room in the basement. And
so like that like I didn't really have a problem with like that angle of it, like of them being like these people that lured, you know, pedophiles or criminals or whatever, like into their house and then, killed them basically. Like I thought that was pretty interesting to me. The only part I have a problem with the ending is like you said, how she can just suddenly go outside of the house now.
yeah, they didn't sell me on that arc, and the whole her
Yeah.
saying "I forgive you," as if she's talking about her father. I'm like, why? Why should
Yeah.
she forgive him? Why does the brother want her to forgive him?
Yeah. That's
Like,
kind of weird.
he raped you as a child. You don't
Yeah.
forgive them for that. Like, you're allowed to hold that grudge. You have to get
Yeah.
over it to an extent, but you're allowed to hold that grudge.
Maybe he wanted her to forgive him because he knew that was like the only way she could leave the house or something.
Yeah, but why? I don't.
I don't know.
So, read a psychiatrist in here. Explain this to me, please, because
Yeah,
I
well, I think I guess if there is a specific reason for it, then the director or writer, whoever, probably didn't do a good job of conveying it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't get it at all. So she goes out the house and she sets the house on fire because the other guy already doused it with gasoline all over the place.
Yeah.
And the movie ends with her walking away with the house burning behind her. And it's just like, okay, I get this is meant to be symbolic, it's meant to be a big moment, but I just don't buy the arc that let her finally leave.
Yeah.
And part of this is because I'm not like I don't like her as a character. Even if you kept the whole hunting paedophiles and locking them in the room with her brother, you could have kept that, but she seemed too damaged and broken for me to get like. See if she was like a almost like a Dexter thing where she was like doing it out of like a sort of justice slash
Yeah.
revenge, like, but she was like really knew what she was doing. She felt
Yeah.
so fragile and broken, yet she was doing this. It just she came across as such a nut job, basically.
Yeah, because when she's in the other room and they're in the like replica of the little girl's room
And
or
it's the
whatever.
one way mirror, and she's behind it. Yeah.
Yeah. So she's, she doesn't act like very, like cold or sinister like you would expect someone that's, taking revenge to act like, instead she kind of like, seems very nervous about it and then like, when they don't do what, she wants them to do, she kind of starts freaking out um and that sort of thing. So I get what you're saying with that. Yeah, like she's not like you kind of would expect her to be like this badass Punisher kind of person,
Hmm.
that's more in control and knows what they're doing. And yeah, instead they kind of just come off as like, yeah, like fragile and broken, like you said.
I think well, not stuck to because maybe that was never their idea, but like
Mhm.
when I said earlier, I thought that the dad had kept her locked up down there, and it
Mhm.
was the dad who was responsible for this. He was the evil one, and she was just this victim, and that's why she was so broken. Like,
Yeah,
had she eventually killed the bad guys, and then I'd have bought her having that arc where she now feels like brave enough to walk out the house and leaving it
yeah,
behind her. I would have bought that much more, and I would have been rooting for her the whole time, probably.
yeah,
But they really murkied it up with this whole backstory they brought into it, and it just feels so like this is as dark and like deep as we can make. This has got layers because we're talking about paedophiles and sexual abuse. Like
Mhm.
they want it to seem deep when it really just feels I don't know.
yeah. No, I can see that. Like, and again, I didn't have that much a problem like with that explanation or anything. It's just, yeah, if there would have been a better way to to do the ending and not just again having her all of a sudden
Yeah.
be able to
I
walk
think
out and stuff like
I
yeah, it would
think
have saved a lot, but
I think I'm sounding really negative, and I think the reason why I'm coming across so negative
mhm,
is because if this had just been a like by the numbers home invasion, there was some jumps and scares and
mhm,
violence, and that's all it was, that'd be okay. But it's clearly shooting for something more. It's trying to be smarter than that, and it
yeah,
fails. So it annoys me more. Like, had it just been a by the numbers thing where it was kind of fun, I'd have been fine with it.
yeah,
But it's trying to go for something more, and I think that actually makes it worse for me because you're shooting for the moon, which is admirable, but you're
mhm,
not making it, and it's
yeah.
frustrating to watch when that happens.
It's kind of funny you mentioned that because I didn't really get that when I was watching it.
Hmm.
Like when you talk about it, I can definitely like see that um, kind of like a attempt at it, but I guess it wasn't really something that crossed my mind
I,
as
th-
watching it.
I think it was because
Yeah,
the ending specifically, when the music
yeah,
swells up, as she slowly walks over to the front door and she goes out and she burns the house and leaves it behind. Like that ending feels like this is a big moment. This is the big climactic, emotional. Like people are going to be crying in the audience when this is like,
yeah,
nah, not really. And like, it's fine.
yeah,
She was crazy. I mean, there was stuff I like. I like the idea of the house having like secret passages and the stairs going back in, and the
yeah.
mystery of like why is there doors down here that can't be opened and one doesn't have a handle. I like that side of things.
All
Um,
th- all
I
that stuff, yeah, interested me as well.
yeah,
That was definitely like the highlight
even
for the movie, I'd say.
even the extra trapdoor sort of thing where she puts the injured guy in the
Oh,
in the little. You just think it's a little cupboard, but then it
yeah,
opens on the other side and it's in the room with the other guy. You know, in the sort of the kid's bedroom looking prison,
yeah.
and like all those little things were cool and fun, and uh, the hammer to the bird's head was
Oh, yeah.
a wonderful splatting moment. Uh,
That's actually one thing I really liked in the movie was that character that was played by Martin Starr, the like crazy one of the intruders.
hmm.
I was really impressed with that because I like him a lot and like he does like a lot of comedy stuff. Like I don't know if you ever saw Freaks and Geeks, but he's like one of the characters on there, and then like he's in like Silicon Valley and stuff now. But he always kind of plays that same like kind of usually like nerdy, you know, slow paced talking kind of guy. But I don't know. I thought it was like interesting to see him here in like a role that I'd never really seen before, and I thought he did a pretty good job. But I guess everyone did like you know, like I didn't have any problems with any of the actors or anything.
Nah, the actors were all okay. I think the characters were just two dimensional or one
Yeah,
dimensional.
yeah,
However many dimensions is bad, right?
right.
That one.
Yeah,
Uh, nah, that's kind of where I am with it. Like, I think it has some fun ideas
mhm,
and a couple of cool moments, but unfortunately, it just like I couldn't get invested in anyone in the movie, and it really just it makes it annoyingly not mediocre, but just see when you feel disconnected to what's going on, and you're just kind of you're aware you're watching a movie, and you're just kind of like, okay, how much is left? You know, like
yeah,
I feel bad for saying it because I think there is good ideas in there, and I like. And I like this whole home invasion thing with the twist. We had home invasion with a woman who was deaf earlier in the year
oh yeah,
with Hush, and then what now it's one that's agoraphobic. I like this idea of like, okay, what can the person in the house be that makes this a different and interesting? We have Don't
yeah,
Breathe later in the year,
yeah.
you know,
See
like
that?
so they're doing these kind of things and they can be really fun,
Yeah,
but I don't know. Like for me, when it comes to oh shit, the girls actually can fight
mhm,
back and is good at it, I would
yeah,
much rather watch You're Next than
yeah,
this. Yeah, like I'm never going to watch this again.
yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Mhm. I would. I'm not in a rush to watch it again, but I think um, I I wouldn't buy it, but if it was ever like streaming or something, and maybe someone wanted to watch, I wouldn't mind watching it again.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, I think that'll take us on to the
Yeah.
ratings. How many biscuits out of 10 are we giving this?
Well, it, like we said, like it definitely does have flaws, but I do think I enjoyed it a little bit more than you. I think it is. I agree with like what you say, but there was enough there that I liked, and yeah, I think I'd give it like a solid like 7 out of 10.
Okay. Alright, noted. I am obviously going a little bit lower than you.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with 5.5.
Okay.
For me, the drawbacks kind of sucked the fun out of it almost.
Hmm.
So rather than just being a fun movie, it tried to do something more, which is great, but it failed, and as a result, it left me feeling kind of sort of empty, I guess.
Yeah. I
So
can get that. I guess with me, like I can acknowledge the drawbacks, but I guess they didn't hamper my overall enjoyment of it as much as it did you. But I think you definitely bring up valid points. So like I understand where you're coming from. But,
cool. That's what everyone wants to see and hear on the internet is people being respectful and understanding of each other's viewpoints and not getting into shouting matches. What I'm saying, Tim, is this is not entertaining enough. You have to say, no, you fucking suck. What? Oh, your mother's a whore. What?
um, well, I don't like agreeing with you, but um, it's kind of hard. Yeah, when it's like
It's kind of hard when I'm so goddamn right.
I wouldn't go that far, but um, yeah, it's always harder with these movies that are a little more like,
In the
you know,
middle.
yeah, when it's something that's kind of like average and like like, oh, like it did its job, or I liked it. I didn't overly love it. I didn't overly hate it. It's hard to get as fired up for something like this.
Hmm.
Uh,
Alright, well, that's Intruders, aka Shut In,
yeah.
which, despite what IMDb says, is actually a 2016 release as far as the public's concerned. It came out at the start of the year, so if you're, if you've seen it and you want to let us know what you thought, you can do so. You can leave us comments down below on the YouTubes, or you can of course tweet at us at mild_fuzz, or you can even email us mildfuzz@gmail.com. You can also email us if you want to suggest movies for us to do in the future. We will happily add them to the list, unless it's something stupid or it's just something that flat out neither of us wants to even attempt to watch because, you know, they exist. Movies that bad exist. Even
Yeah.
Tim's just going to back away slowly. They're few and far between, though. Admittedly, we're pretty open to watching some shit. So
We've watched Zombie Ass, so
we did watch up. We never did that in Screams though. We need to watch that again, Tim, and talk about it on Screams.
well, I think we can talk about it without watching it again.
No, come on, Tim. Tim, that's been like 8 months. That's been like 6, 8 months. We need to see it again before we can talk about it. That's a Zombie Ass Toilet of the Dead for those who want the full title and want to go and investigate what we're talking about. It is well worth watching if you like crazy Japanese movies. I promise you that. And farting is an essential part of the plot.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's that. You can check out other stuff that we do from Mild Fuzz Movies with the 1.21 gigawatt movie reviews, which you can find on Mild Fuzz Movies on the YouTubes. You can also go over to Mild Fuzz TV on YouTube for all the weekly TV reviews on Almost Cancelled and the weekly DC Comics podcast. And that's everything. That's all the plugs. That's all the stuff. Also, though, check out our friends over at Ronin's Reviews because they write written content. They do like opinion pieces and reviews, written reviews of stuff. They cover some of the same movies. In fact, last week they put up a written review of Southbound, which of course we did a couple of weeks ago, and we really liked that. In fact, that's the best movie we've reviewed recently, I'd say.
Like what? Like the last couple of weeks?
Yeah, last like month,
Yeah.
say.
Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah.
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 Something,
That sounds about right.
yeah.
Either that or Conjuring 2.
Oh, true. I kind of forget to count that because it's a new cinema release.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like because that's of course we did that because it was
Definitely of the like whatever video on demand kind of category or whatever is
But,
definitely the best.
yeah, I guess we were expecting Conjuring 2 to be good. This was a nice surprise.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
I guess what I'm really
Okay.
saying. So check out that. Check out old episodes. We've reviewed a lot of movies now.
Hmm.
We've got like 60 plus reviews. You can go and check out now for
If you ever like,
various horror
yeah,
films.
yeah, especially if you're ever like, hard up, looking for a good horror movie to watch, and Halloween's only, you know, less than 4 months away. So if you want to start getting a list ready of what you need to watch, just
Mm.
check out our stuff.
And yes, once again, me and Tim will be competing in the annual Oktoberthon this Halloween season.
Yeah. So you should follow us on like social media and stuff so that you can keep up with us, and
Yeah.
maybe you think you're better than us and can beat us, but I can guarantee you're not.
Yes. I'm at Wibble89, both
Yeah.
on Twitter and Instagram. I'm mentioning both of those specifically this time because if you want to see what I'm watching generally, especially stuff
Mhm.
that I don't do on streams, I do typically post stuff on Instagram about it and
Mhm.
occasionally Twitter.
Are
Especially
you
when I,
still doing the video nasties?
yeah, it's still Video Nasties week on
Okay.
Instagram, and I've been watching some new Video Nasties. In fact, do you want me to spend a couple of minutes here just to tell you about some of the
Sure.
weird Video Nasties I've watched in the past week? So I watched The Beast in Heat, which is still banned in the UK, and
Ooh.
it's a movie about a.
So, did you just admit to doing something illegal?
It's not illegal for me to watch it; it's illegal for me to own it, and I watched it
Okay.
on YouTube, so
Okay.
they can't do shit.
All right.
If anything, they have to go after YouTube for allowing me to see it. That's my stance. I'm
Interesting.
sticking to it. Beast in Heat. It's also called SS Hellcamp, and it's got like another 5 alternate titles because Italian movies from this era all have like 5 alternate titles because they're insane. Uh,
Yeah.
but this movie is about a sort of deranged man beast who has been created by an evil Nazi officer with the sole purpose of raping whatever is in the cage with him, and they use this as a interrogation technique because they're Nazis. This is part of the Nazi exploitation genre or subgenre. I had never seen one of these before. I wish I had vetted this before watching it because I was not prepared for the pube ripping off scenes or the eating
Ugh.
of pubic hairs or throwing babies into there and shooting them. This was just an unpleasant watch. I do not recommend it. I also watched Don't Go in the House, which is just a movie about some serial killer psychopath guy who lures women back to his house and then
Mhm.
burns them with a flamethrower because that's his thing.
Okay.
That was alright. If you like your sleazy early 80s, serial killer
You,
movies.
you know I do.
Yeah, I know you do. I also watched Don't Look in the Basement, which is a movie set in like a. It's not quite an insane asylum. It's not big enough, but it's more like a big house that like looks after like 7 or 8 patients.
So, how many of these movies start with the word "don't"?
Well, just these two. There's probably
Oh,
more
okay.
on the list to be fair, but these are the two I watched. And that was okay too. It was like you could see the twist coming a mile off, but it meandered a little bit in the middle, but had some
Okay.
cool moments. And the last one I
Okay.
watched was what was that called? Night Warning, aka, and the alternate title was so much better. Butcher Baker Nightmare Maker. That's a cool title.
Ooh, I like that.
That's a
That's
movie
good.
about a weird aunt who looks after her nephew because the nephew's parents are dead, and she has these weird incest feelings towards him,
Ooh.
and then she ends up killing someone quite early on in the movie,
Hmm.
and the detective assigned to the case is convinced that the son did it, and that it's somehow got to do with a homosexual love triangle because he's a complete homophobe. And he,
Okay.
he talks in nothing but like homophobic slurs every time he brings it up. It is like a movie of a different time. Like I couldn't believe the
Yeah.
stuff he was like. He was like, "Yeah, it's because you're all gay and you did this out of love for your boyfriend." Like what?
Okay.
It was something else. But again, in terms of absurdity, it was kind of a fun watch.
Okay.
Also, the opening scene in which the parents die, because you see like a flashback to how they die, it's very
Hmm.
reminiscent of a scene from Final Destination 2. Except, of course, this predates it by a good, like, 20, 25 years. So I'm wondering if that was an inspiration or if it's just a coincidence.
Hmm.
All I'll say is that logs do go through card windows.
Oh, interesting.
But no, that's what I've been watching this week for Video Nasty Film Week on Instagram. So if you're interested to see what other crap I watch when I'm not doing stuff for Screams or 1.21, you can see it on Instagram and on Twitter. Tim, you're on social media occasionally.
Yeah, any social media stuff, you can check me out at Tim Vargulish. I'm on the Twitter, the Tumblr, the Instagram. And then, yeah, if you want to check out the comic book stuff I do, check out facebook.com/goatmancomics. That's about it for me.
Cool. Cool. And of course, guys, remember to stay at the very end with the music so you can see Tim's drawing for this week's film.
Oh, yeah.
And of course, if you're on the audio version, then, well, go to YouTube and just skip to the end so you can see the drawing
Yeah.
when you get a chance. But no, that's us. That's us, guys. That has been Screams After Midnight.
Yeah.
Talking about Intruders, except that last 5 minutes, so much we somehow rambled on for whatever other things.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for watching and or listening. And don't. I don't have a
Shit outside.
I don't have a catchphrase. No. It was always don't something in the dark. That was what I did the last 2 episodes.
I thought they were just always about shitting.
And I can't remember, or I can't think of something for this one.
Yeah.
Like, don't.
Go outside in the dark. It would have to be something about going outside.
Yeah, okay. Don't go outside in the dark.
Yeah.
That was shit.